This is Legal Live with Eddie and Chuck Farah. They're talking the latest legal news and answering your questions. To call Legal Live and ask Eddie and Chuck a question, grab your phone and dial 855-765-1045. That's 855-765-1045.
Welcome. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Sheifalika, and I'm joined today by the biggest brain in the legal game, Eddie Farah. How you doing?
I don't know about that, Sheifalika.
I just wanted to say that.
I wouldn't go that far, but it sounds good. No, it's good to be here. It's good to be anywhere. And here, Legal Live again.
Yeah.
Back. Thanks for showing up today.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm so happy to be
we
here.
had a rough time last week without you.
I know. I'm so sorry. I just was not feeling well.
That's
but
okay. As long as you're okay, that's all that matters.
That's true. Well, I'm glad to be back, and let's go. What do we got going on?
Well, let me tell you. We're talking. I'm going to talk about attorney-client privilege because there was an interesting case that came out of New Jersey. It's probably applicable to Florida or any other state, but it deals with attorney-client privilege. You may have heard about it before. Basically, what it means under the law is that what you tell your attorney is confidential, and the reason behind that is the law wants you to be able to be completely honest and upfront with your attorney, without the fear of having that information get out. I mean, if you discuss with your attorney cannot be divulged to anybody else. Nobody can force the attorney to divulge it, and so it's kept private, and it's a very important part of the law. And you can see the logic behind it. I mean, you're there, you need help, you want to be open, you want to be honest. Your attorney needs all the facts so he can help you. So the law wants you to be totally upfront and open so that you can get the representation you deserve.
That's right.
And but what happens, I mean, there are exceptions to that. Let me back up. Sometimes people will go see their attorney and they'll take their next door neighbor or a good friend with them. Well, that person is not bound by the attorney-client privilege. So what you say in front of him, in front of your lawyer, can get out. There is no right of confidentiality. So you have to be careful about how you communicate with your lawyer. But you can communicate with him via text, email, letter, all that's attorney-client privilege. You just got to be careful that if you have other people around you while you're discussing situations with your attorney, those people are not bound by that privilege.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
so it's a one-on-one privacy bond.
Or let's say at the attorney's office, he's got a paralegal with him. She's bound by it because she works for the attorney. She's part of that in that privilege. But
if you take your boyfriend or
your girlfriend,
spouse,
right,
and you
your
break
spouse, there is a privilege there. There's interspousal privilege that the spouse does not have to divulge.
Okay,
so
I see.
That's a different area of the law.
Okay.
That's very interesting. But so you want to be careful when discussing with your lawyer who's around you. One-on-one, you're definitely okay. But let me tell you what happened in this case, which is kind of interesting. That's why I'm ready to get up about attorney-client privilege. This lady's at work, okay, and she's going through a divorce. She's got a employer-supplied computer. However, it's password protected. Only she's got the password. Only she can get into the computer. So she's communicating with her lawyer about her divorce. She's assuming it's attorney-client privilege. The attorney emails her back. She emails him. So lo and behold, the employer has been monitoring her emails. And so everybody knows what's going on now because it's public knowledge.
Right.
The employer knows it. Who else knows it? So she's trying to claim attorney-client privilege to prevent the employer from divulging that information. He goes, no, I'm sorry, ma'am. What if you look at your employee manual, and this is very important, look at your employee manual, you'll see a provision in your employee handbook that allows the employer to monitor anything within the system. And even though your computer is password protected, you're out of luck. So, and the court ruled correct. I mean, she waived her attorney-client privilege because when she signed on to work there, she signed an employee handbook that allowed her employer to monitor her computer.
Wow.
Because it was part of the employer's system. So
this is why I read all my handbooks even when I don't want to.
Yeah.
All the instruction manuals.
I'm telling you, I think most employers probably have that in their employee handbook that they can monitor anything coming in or leaving their system. So you want to be careful. Yeah, even if it's not your employer, maybe you're not involved in a legal situation, what you use your computer for, who you're communicating to, and what you're saying.
Wow.
You have to really assume that the employer has access to all your communications if you're doing it from an employer from work.
Yeah, especially
even
with
if
like
you're
a
working from
company
home,
email.
that probably would apply. Even if you're working from home, you're going to be able to.
Oh, that's an
monitor.
interesting distinction because a lot of people work from home now.
Right. But they have an employer-supplied computer. They're probably on the employer's network, and if you're on the employer's network, then they're going to have access. But it's going to be in your employee handbook. Read it. I can read it to you what was exactly. It says, in this particular case, the employer's right to monitor extends to any communication sent or received by our system or in any way utilizing our system. So that was what the wording was in the handbook, and the court ruled no attorney-client privilege.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. So I guess her information was exposed then, and that's just
a word
that
to the
sucks.
wise here.
Yeah, word to the wise
Okay.
for sure. It seems like a very important confidentiality agreement to know your boundaries for that attorney-client privilege.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a psychologist or like a doctor or something.
Exactly
But
the same thing.
you
It's
have
almost
to
like
be
a HIPAA thing, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You have to be completely honest with them because you don't know if you broke one law or 5 laws, or if you're liable for anything, or if somebody, falsely accused you of something. Your attorney is going to know the difference and the subtleties.
Mm-hmm.
And being completely vulnerable with an attorney, oh my goodness.
Yeah. So
It takes
anyway,
courage.
moving on. We'll talk about something. I got all kind
right.
of stuff to talk about. We'll take your phone. Your phone calls, of course,
That's right.
are
Our phone
our priority. Listen, if you don't, we like comments. You may not have a legal issue, but you may want to comment on something we've said or maybe been through a similar situation. So it's not just questions, it's comments, it's opinions. Don't have to agree with us. You may not like what we're saying. We want to hear about it.
That's right.
We've heard it all. We can handle the criticism. We're here to learn together. So that's the whole idea. But
I love that.
I guess it's a break right now. We'll get back.
That's right.
We're
do
going to
have
talk
a break.
about dog bites when we get back.
Dog bites?
Oh, yeah.
Uh-oh.
Dog bite law.
We would love to hear from you. Give us a call at 855-765-1045. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Sheifalika, and I'm joined today by Eddie Farah, the one and only. Give us a call at 855-765-1045. Right now, Eddie, we've got some callers on the line. Let's go to Bill in Jacksonville.
Sure. Hey, Bill.
What's going on?
Hello.
You there? All right.
Hey, I'm here.
Hey, Bill. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, man.
So, hey, this is a question for you. About 2 years ago, I got into a situation with my home and went to a civil dispute, went to court. The judge ruled in my favor, and basically I walk out, I get the ruling in the mail, and it says, hey, I've found in your favor, you're due, we'll say $2,500. And I'm holding this paper in my hand, and I don't have $2,500. So I reached out to a friend who knows a little bit about the system, and basically I asked him, so how do I collect my $2,500? And he said, well, really about all you can do is put a lien on the person's property to get your money. I've been kind of festering on that for almost 2 years now, frustrated over it, because I had to go get a loan to be able to deal with what happened, and now I'm paying interest on that loan, and this person got away with basically not doing something ethical, and at this point they haven't paid. So my question is, how do you go about collecting in a small claims court finding in your judgment?
That's a good question. Did it happen here in Duval County?
No, it happened in Bradford County.
Okay, so did you record a certified copy of the judgment down there?
I did, and the person's personal property where he lived, he actually lived in Clay County, so I went to the Clay County courthouse and filed it there.
Okay, so you should file it in Bradford and in Clay County, I think. I'm not a collections lawyer, but I think you're better off filing it in both. It doesn't cost much to file it. What's it, about $20 or something? 10, 20?
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, so you want to file it. Now, once you file that certified copy, it's a lien against all his property. What you could, and it's gaining interest. It's, of course, it's worth over $2,500 now. Whatever the legal rate of interest now, it changes. But you're making interest on your $2,500. Okay, it's going up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It earns interest every year. It's like I don't know, 8, 9, 10%, something like that. So it's going up. But what you some people just wait it out, because if he goes to apply for credit somewhere or tries to get a loan or something like that, they're going to kick up this judgment, and it's going to affect. I mean, if he tries to buy a house or something, they may require him to go satisfy that judgment before they give him the loan. Some people just kind of wait it out. All right. Now, what you could do is you could hire a lawyer. They work on a contingency. I know a firm that does it, I think, that could help you. And they'll go try to collect the money, and they'll take a piece of what they collect. That's one way to do it. Now, you could do it yourself. I mean, if you could now that you have a judgment, I mean, if you really want to get into this thing, now that you have a judgment, you have a right to bring him in for a deposition to find out what he owns. And you can ask him you could subpoena him for that deposition, and you can ask of him to bring all his bank statements, a list of all the properties he owns, a list of all his vehicles, where he has his bank accounts. That way you can go levy against that stuff. I mean, it's work. I mean, it's going to cost you some money. Usually that happens on bigger judgments, but I'm just kind of laying out what your alternatives are right now.
Sure.
So that would be something. I mean, and a lot of times if you subpoenaed him to bring all that, if he has some, he may pay you just to not have to do all of that. You know, if you're asking to bring all his deeds and titles to vehicles and bank accounts and, you know, all that, jewelry, I mean, you could ask him to list everything. That way you know what to go after. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't do that type of work, but I have some some knowledge about it. But that's the way to probably have it handled. I don't know if you want to go to that extent, or just hire a lawyer to do it for you.
Okay. Now, a friend of mine, the reason I'm calling today is because I listen to y'all when I'm riding around on Saturdays typically, and a friend of mine, we were talking about this judgment, and he said, well, you better be careful because that judgment's only good for so long.
Yeah, correct. But how long ago did you do this?
It was about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
I think they're good for 10, 20 years, something like that. And you can re-record
it.
Oh,
wow.
You can re-record it.
Okay.
I mean, you can re-record it. I mean, the clerk will tell you because I don't do that type of work. I don't know. I think you could probably type it on Google. How long is a Florida judgment good for? And they'll give you the amount. We can look it up while we're on the phone.
Absolutely.
How long? Maybe Sheifalika can do that.
I'm on it.
Yeah, she's on it. But you can re-record that judgment. You know.
Now this gentleman
does he own a home? Does he own a house?
I do.
Does he own the house? Does he own a home?
Oh, yes, he does. He's an older gentleman. That was another question I had for you. Not that I want anything bad to happen to the gentleman. He just made a foolish choice and ended up in the situation he put himself in. But he's an older gentleman. Not trying to sound mean or not threatening in any way. What if something happened to him and he passed?
Yeah.
What happens to that judgment then?
That's a good question, and I got the answer for that. Oh, by the way, the judgment is good for 20 years. Sheifalika just looked it up, so you're okay. All right, but when he passes away, because that judgment has been recorded, they have to put you on notice that there is an estate, so you can file a claim. And you want to be careful because they put you on notice, and that way you have a certain amount of time and file your claim against the estate, and the court will then collect before they distribute money to everybody. They'll make them pay you. But what you should do, because sometimes how you could get hurt is if after he passes away, they know he owes you money, they don't probate the estate for a certain amount of time, like 2 years. I think So you could get caught in that. If they wait to probate the estate, you may not be able to collect your money. So what you should do, there's a document you can file with the court that the court puts you on notice when he passes away. And that way you can file your claim against the estate. So there's two things you can do. You can file a claim against the estate, and you can put the court on notice that you are owed money, and they have to notify you about the estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will that be done at the same office probably that I filed?
Yes. There's a document, there's a form you can file that requires the probate department to put you on notice when he passes away, because they'll file his will with a probate court. And when they do that, they'll notify you. But you got to be careful, because a lot of times people that owe a lot of money, they will purposely not probate the estate. And again, I'm not a probate lawyer. I know somebody you could talk to explain this to you. But if you wait a certain period of time after you pass away before you begin probate, then you can get out of paying the bills, because the statute of limitations run.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So there's a lot of there's maneuvering going on. So you may want to, that's why I think talking to a collections lawyer may be your best bet. And you know what you can do is call the Jacksonville Bar Association, and for $50, you can talk to a lawyer for 30 minutes that specializes in that area of the law, and he can lay it out for you.
That's
if I called your office this week, would y'all be able to recommend someone to do that?
Yeah. Well, if you leave your number, I'll give you a phone number of somebody who does that kind of collection work.
Okay.
That's right. You can leave your number with our producer, Daniel. And,
with the rate of interest right now, it's probably over $3,000. It's been a couple of years. It's probably worth over $3,000.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yay, inflation. It worked out for you.
Yeah.
It's the one time.
Yeah, inflation's good.
Well,
Good
Bill, thank you so much for calling. Right before we get off to break, I'm going to let
brings
you
up a
know.
good point.
He does bring up a good
Well,
point.
I'll tell you this thing about people waiting after probate. Somebody passes away, and as long as the heirs don't want the assets or the house or the money, sometimes they'll just continue paying the property taxes on the house and on the property and on the assets, and they'll purposely wait to probate the estate a certain period of time, and that way they can avoid paying creditors. The way you get around that is you could open up the estate. If you're a creditor, you go find somebody to be the executor, you open the estate and go get your money. It can get complicated.
I can understand that.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, so I guess
we'll be right back after this quick break, but check it out. When we come back, I've got a really special message from a retired veteran named Marty, and this message is for you, Eddie. So hang tight. We'll be right back after this quick break. Give us a call at 855-765-1045. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV. Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm your host, Sheifalika, and I'm joined today by the host with the most, Eddie Farah. I've got a special message for you. Are you ready?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I need a special message.
So,
looking forward to it.
We had a caller call in, Marty from Jacksonville. He's a retired veteran. And he said that he just wanted to leave a message for you and not take up our phone lines. But he said he had a car accident 2 years ago, and he hired Farah Farah, and he just wanted to say thank you to you, Eddie.
Oh, Marty, I'm humbled by that. We're just doing our job, and we appreciate you coming to us, and I'm glad we were able to help you.
Yeah.
I know you got a lot of choices out there, and we appreciate you choosing Farah Farah.
Well, Marty, I wish you could see the smile on Eddie's face right now. It's adorable. It's fantastic. I think you're making him blush. Or maybe I'm blushing. I don't know.
Marty needs to come by when we do our veterans. We do at Intuition. We support 5-star veterans here in town.
That's right.
Every year we do this. We do a special brew, a special beer that we promote, and the proceeds go to help 5-star veterans. Maybe Marty can meet us over at Intuition Ale House.
Nice.
Or a cold one.
For a cold one, that's right. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much,
Yeah.
Marty, for that
Thanks, Marty.
wonderful message.
Appreciate it, man.
We're about to go to the call lines. Once again, we've got Murphy from Jacksonville. Your question is very interesting. Why don't you explain it to us, Murphy?
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Oh, in a predicted hurricane, an adjacent property owner doesn't tie down a heavy lawn ornament, which is blown by a heavy wind into your home and causes damage. I was wondering who's responsible for the damage, independent of any insurance coverage.
Well, your homeowners would cover it, all right? But then your homeowners would subrogate.
Yeah, I was wondering, independent of insurance coverage, who's responsible?
Well, you could claim it now. I know there's an act of God defense where it's like, but I think since he knew the hurricane was coming and it was not tied down properly, you would probably have a claim against his homeowner's coverage in the event you did not have it. But if you had it, then of course they would pay you, and your insurance company would then go collect back the money they paid you from his insurance company.
Do you have to perform a prior notice asking that it be tied down in order to be covered?
No, I mean you would argue that he knew or should have known that the hurricane was coming, all right? And he was there at the house. He should have known that this item needed to be secured. That it in a high wind situation, it could become a projectile that could cause damage. I mean, you could argue that and then make a claim. But I think,
I was concerned because of the problem with insurance companies now, where you might lose your insurance coverage before you can get protected.
Well, I mean, that's why you have it. I mean, they're going to get their money back from him. You shouldn't lose your coverage.
Yeah, but these insurance companies are going bankrupt left and right.
Don't believe it. That's a misnomer. They control the rates, okay? How can they go bankrupt when they control what people have to pay for the insurance?
Well, if they don't have any money and there's a catastrophe, you might not be covered.
Go look at listen. Go online and look at their assets and how much cash they've gotten. They're not hurting. The insurance companies are the last people hurting. Go look at what their CEOs weigh. The most highly paid people in the country are the CEOs of these insurance companies.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize.
Go look it up.
Well,
I
will, and thank you for your advice.
Yeah, these CEOs make tens of millions multiples of 10 a year.
Wow.
I mean, believe they control the rates.
Is there any...
All they got to do is raise the rate. They can't lose because if they have a lot of claims, they just raise the rate.
Well, I received a letter saying that they're no longer going to insure me.
Right.
And when the policy expires, and I have to find some other insurance for my house.
I went through the same thing, and I found another company at a lesser price than that. Yeah, they do that. They come in.
Lucky you, I haven't been able to find one so far.
Well, I did. My agent found me someone. I have an independent agent, and he found me coverage.
Is there any chance I could find out who that is?
Sure, I'll give you. There's Andy Norman Insurance out of St. Augustine.
Andy Norman Insurance.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll find you coverage. Tell him Eddie Farah. He found it for me.
Yeah, if he can find it for Eddie Farah, he can find it for you, Murphy.
He's in St. Augustine. I mean, he'll find it for you.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your help.
Yeah, you're sure. Good luck.
Thank you so much for calling in, Murphy. That was a very interesting question. I never thought about that. Like a statue in somebody else's yard
Yeah, but
could definitely become a airborne projectable in a
it could do
hurricane.
some damage. Yeah. Now, typically, what I was going to get into is that if a tree just falls onto your land or property from your neighbor, and he had no notice there's something wrong with it, that's just an act of God. Your insurance would cover that. He's probably not responsible because he didn't have any notice that there was anything wrong with the tree. It wasn't rotten. Let's say a storm comes in today, just all of a sudden. I had no notice. All of a sudden, there's a big, huge tornado comes in. The tree knocks the tree down. Is it Josh? Hits Josh's house.
Murphy's.
Murphy's house. Hit
Yeah.
Murphy's house. I mean, that's just an act of God. I mean, there's no liability there. Murphy's Insurance would pick it up.
That's interesting that they call it an act of God clause.
Yeah, because there's no, it's just happens.
It just happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, feels like a lot of things with life in the last few years. It just happens.
Yeah.
Well, we have a couple of minutes to go to our next break. I just wanted to say, feel free to give us a call. We love hearing from you. Our number is 855-765-1045.
Yep.
We've got some time left in the show. I always enjoy our interesting callers. We really do get some really cool people calling in. And
yeah. Do you have a caller right now, or I'll move on to something else?
Yeah,
okay.
Go for it.
I'll move on to something. All right. Medical bills, we all get them. We hope our insurance picks it up. But let me tell you what's been happening. It happened to a guy in Tampa. What a lot of these you go to the emergency room, you have insurance, and you go to the ER. A lot of these hospitals are outsourcing the ER services, not just the doctors, but like the anesthesiologists, the X-ray people who run the X-rays and CAT scans. So you go to the hospital thinking, okay, let's say, for instance, I've been to Memorial. I'm not saying Memorial does this. I'm just using it as an example. You go to Memorial because you've been there before. You use your insurance before. You have Blue Cross Blue Shield or whatever, and they take Blue Cross. So you go to Memorial ER and you assume you're covered. Well, a lot of these hospitals are outsourcing the ER doctors. So what happened to a guy in Tampa, he goes to this Trinity Hospital in Tampa thinking that, hey, I've been there before. They're within my network. And so little does he know, he gets a bill after he gets out of the ER. He gets this big bill. And he's wondering, well, how come my insurance didn't pick it up? Well, what he finds out is the doctor who treated him in the emergency room was not employed by the hospital. He was outsourced and worked for a different company. And that company that he worked for was not within the network of this particular patient. So he's stuck with a several $1,000 medical bill thinking that it was going to be covered by his insurance. Another person, this happened to another person, they go into a hospital ER and they get all these tests run with X-rays and CAT scans, and they get home and they get a bill for like $10,000, and they go, wait a minute, I was at the emergency room. This was this hospital takes my insurance. Find out that the people who were running the X-ray machines and the anesthesiologist were not employed by the hospital. They were employed by a different company who did not was not within that network.
What?
So this can happen. I think you want to when you go to the emergency room, usually the emergency room, who's looking at signs, who's trying to, listen, you're at the ER, things are not good. You're there for a reason.
Yeah.
Typically, these hospitals will put signs up that these ER doctors are not employed by the hospital, that they are subcontracted out and work for a different company. But man, who's thinking about that?
Yeah.
I mean, you want help. You're at that ER. Are you going to leave that ER to go somewhere else and wait when you're already there?
Right.
So you want to be on the lookout for that, or maybe even when you get there, before you check in, make sure that the doctors that are there do work for the hospital and that they're not being outsourced to a different company.
I wish that was something that they could mention online, so you could choose.
Because if that company's not in your network, you're going to get a big bill. So,
I see.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I wonder how that makes the doctors feel, where it's like the hospital's just abandoned liability for them at the door.
Well,
I wish a doctor would call in and let us know. What does that make you feel like?
Well, the hospital's doctors trying to make a living like everybody.
That's true. They're just trying to get by. That's true. They've been through enough, I guess. All right, you're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Feel free to give us a call at 855-765-1045. We'll be right back after this quick break. Welcome back. You're listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. I'm Sheifalika, and I'm joined today with Eddie. Eddie, we've got a caller on the line. I'm really excited to hear the answer to this question. We've got Harold from Jacksonville. What's your question, Harold?
Hey, Harold.
Okay, I got I don't know if you know what a clearinghouse is, the truck drivers clearinghouse.
I'm sorry.
I got a family drug string because I was hanging around people that were smoking drugs.
Hold on.
Harold,
can you slow down a little bit and speak
up?
Go
ahead. Repeat your question.
Okay, I family drug screen because I was hanging around people that were smoking. I didn't smoke, So is there any way I can get this off my driving record? Or the clearinghouse, not on my driving record. It's called clearinghouse. It has I don't know if you've heard of it.
No,
But,
I haven't.
Okay, it's whenever you fill a drug screen, it goes to there's a new thing by the government where they regulate things like that, alcohol and DUI and drugs. If you fill it, it gives you a violation, and you have to go through therapy and all that stuff, and then you get a return to duty. Well, I did all that, but I feel it was unfairly done, and I was just wondering if there's anything I could do to, clear it up so it's off that clearinghouse, because I think I was wrongfully violated.
So you're saying that you should have been negative because you didn't partake? Is that
Correct. But I was around people that were smoking the drugs. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you test positive by just being around it?
Yes.
It depends. If
Yeah.
it's secondhand, like cannabis, it
You're
gets
right.
into your system if you're breathing
yeah,
it in.
you're
You can get a
right, you're right.
contact high,
Yeah,
like at concerts and stuff.
Yeah, you're right. You're
Yeah,
right. You're
but
right.
Yeah.
I wonder if they could test you again. How long ago did this happen? Can you, once it's cleared out of your system, test again to get a negative and get it off? He's trying to get it off his driving record.
Why is it on your driving record? What does that have to do with your
Okay. It's not on the driving record. It's a violation. It's a federal thing. What it is that you have to go through the therapy, and they give you you have to do a visual pee in the cup thing for a year. I got to do it 4 times, but that's a side point. But I'm just trying to know if there's something I could do to get it off the clearinghouse violation thing.
Are you like on probation or something? Is that?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct, something like that.
All right.
It's
All right.
state-
Yeah.
I don't know if anything could be done or not. I was just curious. Maybe I might have known something. If not, that's fine.
Well, no, I mean, that's an interesting question. I mean, you
Yeah, it
didn't.
is.
I mean, that's a heck of a question because
Yeah.
I mean, that could
Yeah.
happen to anybody. I mean,
Yeah.
You know-
It's for CDL truck drivers.
It's for
Okay.
CDL truck
oh,
drivers.
for CDL.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Gotcha. Okay.
Wow,
So
that's a big deal because that affects
that's-
everything.
that's your livelihood. You
I know that.
That's a big deal.
Sure. Correct. I'm lucky I got a job right now that's working with me, but I still for 5 years on the clearinghouse deal, and but I did drug screen 4 times, but that's why I got lucky. Then it goes off, but it stays on the clearinghouse thing for 5 years.
Is there an appeals process that you can go through?
Yeah, I want to go through the first part of the process, but because it's a violation, it stays on your the federal clearinghouse. You might want to look it up. So
I'm
you
looking it
understand
up. Yeah, right now it's the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and
Correct.
it's a drug and alcohol clearinghouse. Essentially, it is what
Correct.
registers anything like that. Let me see if I can
Yeah,
find
I
some
mean,
question answers.
That's going to affect
Yeah.
your earning capacity. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I was out of work for a month. I finally got to return to duty. That's the last part of it. But yeah, the employer that I'm working for has to drug screen me visually, actually, for 4 more times throughout the rest of the year. It's at their discretion when they, give a drug screen. But after that, it stays on your the clearinghouse for 5 years before it's taken off.
I see.
wow.
I see.
Yeah. I see.
I don't know what
So-
to tell you. I think you need to get a lawyer.
Yeah, even if you test negative for the rest of the year, like you had
Yeah,
those
it's not
4
going to make
tests
a difference. It's still on his record.
for 5 years.
Yeah,
though?
yeah. You got to
Yeah.
fight that. I don't know. That's not our area. We know we're a personal injury firm, but that's something you really. I mean,
Yeah.
have you discussed it? Have you talked to a lawyer about it?
No, sir, I have not. I just want some advice because you're legal advice.
There are some lawyers in town that could probably help you with that.
That's right. The Jacksonville Bar Association, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I
I've
know
got
another
their phone
lawyer.
number.
I know. Yeah. If you want to leave your number, I think I know an attorney that may be able to help you.
Okay. We'll do that off air. I really do want my name, but that's fine. Okay.
Yeah. If
Yeah.
you just leave it with our
Thank
director, and I'll give you a shout next week and give you a name.
I want Yeah, I want to appreciate you doing the commercial about truck driving and to avoid. I've got a comment on this whenever somebody takes a driving test, a kid, they would put on things like it takes almost 400, the football field and a half to stop a fully loaded semi, 80,000 pounds, and it takes about 60 to 90 seconds for a fully loaded semi to get up to highway speed.
No, you're right. And you sound. I may have to get you to do my commercial.
That would be great.
I may have to hire you, Harold.
All right, I gotta let you go, man.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And make sure to leave your number with our producer, Daniel.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for
Yeah,
calling,
I mean, look
Harold.
at
That's
that.
a really interesting thing.
There's got to be, under the federal, there's got to be an appeals process.
There is.
Where you can contest it and say, listen, that's not me. I was around it. And wow, unbelievable.
I'm looking at that website for, the FMCSA clearinghouse and the frequently asked questions. There are some questions regarding this type of thing, but they're not giving very specific answers.
Yeah.
They keep referencing check this code in that manual or this, code.
Well, the good thing
But
that truck drivers in high demand right now. So
that is true.
So I'm
They
sure
need you.
I'm sure Harold's staying pretty busy.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Harold, don't forget they need you. We
Yeah,
all
they-
need you. So
Yeah, they need you, man. More,
don't give up.
More than you need them.
Yeah.
right now.
Hopefully, Eddie he knows an attorney that can totally help you out or at least listen to your case and clear it up for you. It sounds like I hope you do get it. Because, if you didn't partake, you shouldn't be necessarily held liable and whatnot.
Right.
All right. Well, we've got a couple of minutes to wrap up. Any last thoughts for you today?
Well, some of the stuff I get into is going to probably take longer than 2 minutes.
That's true.
But I just want to get, I don't know. I don't have anything I can jump into that I can finish up, Sheifalika.
All right.
But
that's fair. Well, welcome back from your fantastic vacation.
Yeah.
We
Well,
missed you.
Yeah, it's good to be back. And again, if we can't get to your question today, you can always call us at the office and ask our call. We have a call center that's open 24/7, and they're there, and they can help you out with your. I do want to talk about Camp Lejeune. We're handling a lot of those cases. We have a lot of veterans in town that were at Camp Lejeune. And so we are here our office is handling, and we represent a lot of vets. And if you have any questions about the Camp Lejeune situation, call us. President Biden has signed the law. And
That's right. He did finally do that. I remember Chuck and Nick LaFontaine was here.
Right.
Before that he did sign it. So now we have we can put it into action, I guess?
We have a former Marine that's working with us. He's in our firm, and he was at Camp Lejeune too. So
yeah, he was.
Yep, so.
Fantastic guy. I hope he can come back. Well, maybe we'll do a show on that soon. And you can always catch Legal Live by Farah and Farah at noon on Saturdays at 104.5 WOKV, Jacksonville's News and Talk. Thank you so much to Bill and Marty and Murphy and Harold and even Brian for calling in today. We really appreciate it. You can check us out next week at the same time, same place. We'll be happy to take your calls. Thank you for listening to Legal Live, brought to you by Farah and Farah on 104.5 WOKV.